The red live light glowed above the studio, and every screen in America showed the same frozen faces. Bill Clinton, silver-haired and steady-eyed, had just leaned toward the microphone and said, "I stand with Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Africa's sons and daughters deserve to decide their own future without our chains." For 3 long seconds, no one spoke. An anchor's coffee cup rattled against its saucer. Phones in the control room exploded with calls from the White House, from lobbyists, from startled friends who could not believe what they'd heard. The ticker at the bottom of the screen stuttered, then flashed in angry red. Former U.S. President defends Burkina revolutionary. Capitol Hill in uproar. Some viewers cheered, some swore, and some simply stared, wondering if history itself had slipped a gear. If this moment stirs something in you, take a second to like this video. It helps more people feel the quake. A junior producer yanked off her headset and whispered to the anchor, "Langley just sent an urgent memo. You need to see this." The camera stayed fixed on Clinton's calm face, while behind the scenes papers rustled like frightened birds. What secret had arrived? And why did the anchor's hands suddenly tremble? 6 weeks earlier, a weak sun slipped through the blinds of a small rented office in Harlem. Bill Clinton sat alone, thumbing old trip journals full of sand-stained pages from Africa tours in the 1990s. The paper smelled of dust and long-packed suitcases. Each scribbled note, "Village school needs books," "Cotton farmers talk of unfair prices," was a pinprick of guilt. He had shaken those hands, promised hope, and flown home to bigger headlines. Yet the unfair deals went on. He paused at a photo stapled to one diary. Children in Burkina Faso waving cardboard flags. Back then, the country was barely a headline. Now every news site buzzed with the name Ibrahim Traoré, young, uniformed, and loud enough to wake a continent. Across the Atlantic, in the crowded market square of Ouagadougou, Captain Traoré climbed a wooden stage. Raindrops tapped his beret, but thousands held their ground. "Burkina Faso will rise on its own feet," he cried, voice cracking through rusty speakers. "No soldier from abroad will choose our road. Only we will." Beside him stood Mariam Dio, an activist whose laugh could lift tired spirits, and Amadou Kone, an older diplomat who spoke 6 languages and trusted silence more than applause. They felt the eyes of foreign powers watching, measuring, fearing. Back in New York, Clinton's phone buzzed. James Carter, an old friend once posted in Ouagadougou, had sent a letter thick with worry. "Bill, the pressure on these kids is growing. Debt, drones, whispers of coups. If someone with weight doesn't speak, the door may slam on them forever." Clinton read the lines twice, folded the paper, and stared at his reflection in the dark monitor. Could a former president still bend history, or had his season passed? He remembered a proverb an elder woman told him under a baobab tree. "The river never forgets the stone that blocked it." Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Every river, every stone, every story matters. Days later, he turned on an international news channel and saw Traoré again, this time condemning the old empire by name. Reporters called him reckless. Teenagers called him our captain. Clinton felt a pulse of respect and a lash of responsibility. He knew the pattern: praise democracy loudly, punish it quietly. He had signed some of those punishments. That night, he walked the city alone. Neon lights painted puddles blood red and electric blue. Cars hissed by indifferent. In a bakery window, he saw a birthday cake, tiny roses of frosting clinging to the icing. A memory bloomed, giving schoolchildren cupcakes during a visit to Bobo Dioulasso. One boy had asked, "When will the world listen to us?" Clinton had no answer then. Perhaps he had one now. The next morning, he drafted a short but thunderous statement. He showed it to no consultant, no party elder. He only called Carter. "Jim, I'm about to stir a pot we both once tasted." "Do it," Carter replied, voice thin with distance. "Somebody has to break the silence." Word leaked within hours. Cable shows booked scholars and strategists, eager to frame the coming storm. Some called Clinton senile. Others labeled him a closet radical. Sponsors threatened to pull ads. But the network needed ratings, and nothing sells like a former president with a live mic. So they set the studio. Lights bright as summer noon. A glass of water sweating on the desk. The anchor rehearsed neutral expressions in the mirror. Producers rehearsed apology statements just in case. Clinton arrived with a single sheet of notes folded in his jacket. When the red light blinked on, the anchor asked a gentle opening question about global trade. Clinton listened politely, then pushed his notes aside. "I want to speak straight," he said, voice steady as a riverbank. "Africa is tired of being polite while we stack the deck. Captain Ibrahim Traoré speaks a truth we chose to ignore. I stand with him, and with every nation whose dream is its own." And that was the lightning strike we saw at the start. Studio jaws dropped. Viewers leaned forward. Power brokers reached for damage control scripts they never thought they'd need. If you believe the time for Africa to rise is now, subscribe and share. Voices grow stronger together. But the real quake was still coming. In the control room, that urgent memo from Langley warned of something darker. Covert plans, hidden saboteurs, a move that could silence Traoré before dawn. The anchor's eyes flicked to the screen, then back to Clinton, unsure whether to read the message or bury it. Outside, sirens wailed down 7th Avenue. In Ouagadougou, Mariam Dio felt her phone vibrate with an encrypted alert. New threat identified. Secure the captain. And somewhere in the maze between two continents, unseen hands prepared their next move. A dusty wind blew across Ouagadougou's silent streets that night. The city, often alive with music and the shouts of market women, now held its breath. In the presidential quarters, Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat at a wooden desk lit by a single flickering bulb. His uniform jacket hung on the back of the chair. His sleeves were rolled up, forearms smudged with ink and the weight of decisions too heavy for most men his age. Mariam Dio stood near the window, phone in hand, jaw tight. "They moved the mercenaries into Kadougou, disguised as aid workers," she said. "And someone leaked the names of your inner circle." Ibrahim didn't flinch. "Then we tightened the circle," he replied. "But it's not just them anymore," Mariam whispered. "The Americans, they're confused now." Clinton just went off script. The old powers are panicking. In a backroom studio thousands of miles away, Clinton was still in the building. After his broadcast shockwave, he was led quietly into a private holding area by security, where a government official, young, polished, nervous, waited with a bland smile. "Mr. President, we're getting calls from the Pentagon, state, and, frankly, everyone. They need to understand what just happened out there." Clinton leaned back in his chair, eyes tired but defiant. "What happened," he said slowly, "is that a kid from Hope, Arkansas, just told the truth for once. Do you know what you've triggered? The markets are reacting. Defense contractors are fuming. You legitimized a man we're quietly trying to remove." Clinton raised an eyebrow. "You mean a leader chosen by his people who's kicking out foreign bases and asking for food, not guns?" The young official swallowed hard. "This is bigger than Burkina Faso. There are deals in motion, partnerships, and betrayals," Clinton cut in. "Burkina Faso is being punished for refusing to kneel, the same way Lumumba was, Sankara, Gaddafi. But this time the world is watching." If this message resonates with you, take a second to like this video. It helps more people see behind the curtain. Meanwhile, in a hidden compound on the outskirts of Ouagadougou, 3 vehicles idled under the cover of banana trees. Inside them sat men with Western accents and old maps. They had dossiers, satellite imagery, and a mission they couldn't speak of in public. "The president is surrounded by loyalists," one said. "But they're young, untrained. All we need is one defector." A man in a dusty leather coat nodded. "Then let's find him." In the capital, Amadou, Cohn met secretly with a former army general now retired in shame after refusing a bribe. "They're trying to turn our own against us again," Amadou whispered. "We need a decoy, something to buy time, while Ibrahim finishes the charter." The general lit a thin cigar. A decoy or a martyr? At the presidential desk, Ibrahim finally leaned back and rubbed his temples. Before him lay pages of a document he had been rewriting all week, The Burkinabe Charter for Sovereignty, a new blueprint for justice, land control, education, and a military that answered only to the people. Even if I don't survive, he murmured, this must. Just then, Miriam burst back into the room, breathless. Sir, Clinton isn't backing down. He's now demanding a Senate hearing. He wants to expose the operations in the Sahel. Even Americans are starting to ask questions. Ibrahim blinked in surprise. Why would a man who once shook hands with invaders now speak like Sankara? Guilt, Amadou said, stepping in from the shadows. Or maybe the ghost finally spoke to him. Tell us in the comments. What do you believe drives men to finally tell the truth? Fear or freedom? Word of Clinton's bold move rippled across the continent like a rising drumbeat. In Ghana, students at Legon University held a night vigil, chanting Traoré's name. In Nairobi, an underground newspaper called Uhuru Dawn ran the headline, "The Empire Blinks." But in Washington, the mood was less poetic. A high-level emergency meeting gathered in a windowless room beneath the Capitol. He's giving hope to a Pan-African awakening, a senator growled. If Burkina Faso succeeds, Mali follows. Niger follows. Then Congo. We lose the Frank zone. We lose control. Another official asked, what are our options? A general answered flatly, there's always regime change. We've done it before. Back in Harlem, Clinton met privately with African diaspora leaders, Pan-Africanists, poets, professors, old revolutionaries who had once marched in silence. You've started a fire, one said. Now what? Clinton looked out the window toward a quiet street. Now we protect the flame. He raised funds for lawyers, publicists, whistleblower protection. He arranged for international observers to travel to Burkina Faso. He did interviews in France, Brazil, South Africa. The words he once kept in his throat now spilled like a storm. Let Africa breathe. Let them govern their gold, their land, their minds. No more invisible chains. And so, while the sun set over Ouagadougou and drones hovered far above unseen, Clinton's stand began to do something unthinkable. It slowed the machine. Some operatives refused orders. Leaks reached journalists. For once, the empire stuttered. Inside the president's quarters, Ibrahim signed the final page of the charter. His pen hovered for a moment before writing the date. It is done, he said softly. No matter what comes next. But outside the walls, someone was watching. A man from the convoy, once part of Traoré's own training unit, now turned. He pressed a button on his belt radio. I'm in position. Inside the control room back in D.C., the Langley memo was finally read aloud on live air by the same anchor who had trembled before. This just in, multiple international actors may be coordinating a plot to destabilize the current leadership in Burkina Faso. Intelligence confirms a potential coup within days. And as those words reached the world, the screen split in two. Clinton's steady gaze on one side, Ibrahim's determined face on the other. The past and the future daring to meet in a single story. If you believe the time for Africa to rise is now, subscribe and share. This isn't just a story. It's a signal. The night air above Ouagadougou trembled with the whir of rotors. Two dark helicopters skimmed low, blades chopping the stars into sparks. On the ground, the man from the convoy, call sign Jackal, gave a final nod to the pilots. Target building is the Yellow Palace. Roof breach in 3 minutes. But inside that palace, Captain Ibrahim Traoré was already moving. Amadou Cohn had caught Jackal's radio call on a hack channel. The old diplomat sprinted down a hallway, lit only by emergency lamps, sweat darkening his collar. Plan decoy, he hissed to Miriam Dio as he passed. Miriam dashed to the press room, heart hammering. She flipped on a lone camera and spoke into the cold lens. Citizens of Burkina Faso, listen carefully. The captain is safe. Stay in your homes, protect your neighborhoods, and pray for dawn. She ended with the three-finger salute of the uprising, a sign every child now drew on classroom chalkboards. If you're hearing this and you stand for freedom, tap the like button so the world knows you're awake. Up on the roof, the first rope dropped. Black-clad commandos slid toward the balcony, rifles ready. They kicked open glass doors and stormed a dim office, only to find a mannequin in uniform seated at the desk, a radio taped to its ear looping Ibrahim's recorded voice. A small hand-painted sign rested on the chair. The people are not puppets. The light snapped on. 20 young soldiers, barefoot, nervous, but brave, stepped from behind curtains. Their rifles were old, yet their eyes were bright with purpose. "For Thomas Sankara," whispered the first. "For our mothers," said the second. They fired warning shots into the ceiling. The commandos froze. Outside, sirens howled as neighborhood watch groups. Market women with whistles, taxi drivers with flashlights, blocked every street. Burkina Faso had rehearsed this night for months. No one was going back to chains. Washington, D.C., same hour. Bill Clinton paced a quiet hotel room, TV muted but captions racing. Breaking, coup attempt in Burkina Faso. His phone buzzed. Miriam Dio live. "Mr. President," she said, voice shaky yet proud. "They came for him. They failed, but dawn will be rough." "I'm on the next flight," Clinton answered. Secret Service protested. Senators raged. He booked the ticket anyway. Tell us in the comments. Would you travel into a storm if it meant saving the truth? Dawn, Ouagadougou Airport. The runway shimmered pink as the sun climbed over termite mounds. A lone commercial jet rolled to a stop. Doors hissed open, and Bill Clinton stepped on a Burkinabe soil flanked by only 2 aides. No parade, no armored limo, just a borrowed jeep waiting in the dust. Crowds gathered along the road despite the curfew. Farmers, students, drummers banging empty fuel cans. They didn't chant Clinton's name. They chanted their own. "Nabiye, Nabiye, we decide." Clinton raised a hand, half greeting, half apology. They reached the presidential compound, walls scarred by bullets from the night before. Inside, Ibrahim walked out to meet him, left arm bandaged where a shard of glass had nicked him. "You really came," the captain said, surprise and relief mixing in his grin. "I owed you a visit," Clinton replied. "And in answer to a question a boy once asked me, when will the world listen to us?" The 2 men entered a small conference hall packed with local chiefs, teachers, and vendors clutching notebooks. Amadou Kone unfolded the Charter for Sovereignty on a rough wooden table. The pages fluttered under a ceiling fan that squeaked like an old bicycle. Clinton took a breath. "Friends, I can't sign your charter. It isn't mine, but I can carry it." He looked at every face. "I will take this to the United Nations, to every newsroom, to every capital. And I will say, this is the future talking." Miriam wiped a tear. The room fell into a deep, respectful silence, the kind after thunder when you realize the sky has changed. If this scene moves you, share the stream so no one can erase it later. 2 weeks later, New York City, UN headquarters. Delegates shuffled papers, expecting routine debate, when the former U.S. president strode to the podium beside a young captain in a plain tin uniform. Gasps rippled through the assembly. Cameras flashed. Clinton spoke first, voice low but firm so even a 9-year-old watching at home could understand. "My country taught the world to dream of freedom," he said. "Tonight, I admit we often sold freedom only to keep the receipt. Burkina Faso is tearing up that receipt." He stepped back. Ibrahim Traoré approached the mic. "I'm not here to beg," he began, words clear as drum beats. "I'm here to invite. Share trade that is fair, knowledge that is open, and respect that is mutual. Or leave us to build alone." Some delegates clapped politely. Others glared. But millions online roared approval. Aftermath. The mercenary cell was exposed. Its backers denied involvement. Yet leaked emails told another story. Several African nations, Mali, Niger, Ghana, publicly endorsed the charter. A global fund for Sahelian schools launched with small donations from everyday people moved by the broadcast. Not every wall fell. Old contracts still bled resources. Some TV hosts mocked Clinton as a retired rebel. But kernels had hit the soil, and rain was coming. One evening on the White House lawn, a reporter asked the current president about Clinton's actions. The response was cautious. "We respect sovereign choices, was all the press secretary would say. In diplomatic code, that was a tremor. Months later, back in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim met Clinton beneath the same giant tree where that old proverb lived. Children from the village gathered, giggling at the tall foreigner's accent. The captain read aloud a final letter Clinton had written. Simple words for a simple truth. Real power isn't the grip you keep, but the hand you offer. Clinton handed the letter to a girl no older than 9. Keep this, he told her. One day someone will ask what changed, and you can show them. The girl smiled, slipped the paper in her notebook, and ran off toward the red sunset, dust swirling at her heels like a banner. And somewhere high above, the Empire's satellites still watched, but on the ground a new story had already taken root, one that no lens, no lobby, no lie could fully contain. If you've walked this whole journey with us, subscribe and share. Let the seeds keep flying. The time for Africa and for honest voices everywhere to rise is now.